I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Michael Ng, Vice President of SIFMA and Director of Healthcare Operations of KK Women's and Children's Hospital, Singapore. Michael is passionate in developing young facility professionals to be cognizant of FM competencies and to be prepared for the challenging demands in the built environment. His pursuit interest is to promote the development of credentials in facilities management as well. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you.
Chloe. So Melvin Leong is the director with the Frost Sullivan Asia Pacific Environment and Building Technologies practice. He has over 14 years of industry experience and has undertaken research studies and work on more than 40 reports covering market insights and trends in the environmental market and building technologies market. Melvin has also undertaken and worked on more than 30 consulting projects on a global scale. Some industry participants he had worked with includes Philips, Legrand, Hitachi, ISS, Grundfos, Mitsui & Company, Taisei Corporation, Government of Selangor, Malaysia. Melvin has several industry-specific articles to his credit and was being a quote in both online and print media. He has had articles and quotes published in trade magazines and other media channels such as ANS Asia, Bloomberg, and Business Week. So without further ado, I'll hand over the floor to Melvin. Melvin, please.
Thank you. So I will share my screen right now. Right, I hope everyone can see. So let me know if anyone couldn't see the materials that I just flashed out. So thank you, Michael, for the introduction, and hello to everyone wherever you might be. I'm Melvin from Frost Sullivan, and I hope that you remain safe and healthy. So thank you for joining us today, and I will start the webinar with a quick introduction on key themes and messages, which is remodeling FM with technologies and other transformation trends. All right. So now we have already felt the effect of COVID-19. So markets are severely impacted, and it can be positive like healthcare or negative like tourism and airlines business. And of course, there are businesses that are forced to undergo change like education and energy. The healthcare segment was perhaps the busiest market in the past few months, from hospital operations to healthcare supplies and even FM services in hospitals. We use hand sanitizers more than ever before, and this leads to demand for chemical manufacturing. The not so good news is that the buildings industry is generally slowing down. So, but the good news for buildings industry lies on building services, and that's what we call facility management. So in the midst of all this chaos, there are specific trends and opportunities that market players and investors can focus on. And we will see this in the next few slides. So the overall FM companies face two types of challenges in the midst of this COVID-19, internal and external. So external challenges would include FM customers, such as closure of facilities and contract deferment. Internal challenges would include internal HR and finance. So contract clauses may be revised to allow flexible cost structure and payment from customers. Now, there are four broad approaches, or I would say focus, for FM companies to look at. Now, these are workforce, finance, innovation, and regulations. So in the long run, FM companies would need to leverage new technologies to create more efficient FM propositions. Now, with that, new business models may become necessary. The underlying impact for FM companies is really to communicate and work closely with customers, vendors, and also partners. And another impact would be business innovation, or business model innovation. So FM companies will need to operate with futuristic models that are resilient to emergencies and also reprioritize customers and services to stay relevant and profitable. So in a nutshell, the FM market will be disrupted, and in fact, it is already disrupted. So FM customers or building owners will never be the same when it comes to operational safety and hygiene. Now, very specific services are now required, like cleaning and people management, or what we call crowd analytics. Well, that is where new business models and advanced technologies kick in. Now, these two concepts are not new. COVID-19 just accelerated them for the FM industry. Now, we at Frost Sullivan tracks the FM market very closely and frequently. Our new reforecast has shown a very likely revenue decline in 2020 by 5.2% on average at global level. And it is not until 2022 that the FM market will bounce back to its pre-COVID growth rate. But the overall lost revenue from 2020 to 2025 would likely to be around $237.6 billion. Now, a very quick look at how Asia-Pacific FM markets will end up in 2020. Now, we can expect overall performance on the FM market to register negative growth by the end of the year in this region. More mature and advanced FM markets are very likely to decline in growth. In fact, it is more severe, like Japan, Korea, Singapore, and even Malaysia. Now, these markets are actually mature FM markets with a relatively higher FM outsourcing rate compared to other countries. Australia and New Zealand will also see some continuous FM demand from the remote sectors, such as mining and agriculture. For the rest, like emerging economies with developing FM businesses, generally they will see a smaller decline in growth due to its lower FM outsource rate at the first place. Now, so much was said about trends and opportunities. Now, we have grouped these into broad themes under 3 phases for FM companies. Respond for short term, reset for medium term, and rebound for the long term. And this sets the framework for remodeling FM. You start to remodel your FM business with strategies under respond, reset, and rebound. Now, of course, under each of these phases, there are specific trends and growth opportunities. As you can see here, we will go through them very quickly in the next few slides. This framework in remodeling FM should give you broad ideas on how to evaluate or where to evaluate new areas of growth, prioritize them, implement, and also monitor them. Now, if you analyze carefully each of these trends here, digital transformation plays a very important role. Digital tools will be more needed to support remote operations, engagement with customers, and also to support new value propositions. Now, to keep this concise, I will just quickly go through these areas that are highlighted here. Now, we are seeing more than ever before the emphasis on workplace safety, hygiene, and the overall safety in facilities or buildings. Technology will be used to support safety in the working environment, and there will be rapid growth, as you can see right now everywhere you go, for track and trace under crowd analytics. Also, there is workspace management being taken place, and also indoor navigation applications. So FM companies also need to reprioritize services and customer focus, such as healthcare and also public infrastructure. Now, we know cleaning and security are key services, and they will be very competitive. It will be only differentiated with the use of advanced technologies. Now, for M&E switch on as a value add, FM customers will see more value when AI-powered remote diagnostics and predictive analysis are used. So please note that business continuity planning has been a key element of FM value propositions and collaboration with customers. Now, this is definitely needing more careful design in service KPIs and also in the deployment of analytics in the future. So even before COVID-19, FM services have already focused on delivering more sustainable outcomes. So environmental and energy management services have been among the fastest growing sub-segments of the FM market for the past 5 years. And it will remain so during and after the pandemic. So sustainability team services must continue to be emphasized. But what happens to be apparent for both building owners and occupants would have been healthy and safe buildings. While this means that FM providers may further develop solutions for even indoor air quality monitoring that includes benchmarking and continuous real-time analysis. So such trend will call for robotic applications and even drones to perform certain duties like cleaning and monitoring work. This calls for hygiene as a service models. So these models will usually be outcome-based as compared to traditional SLAs. Now, and we all know the need to reduce or remove human intervention in processes. AI and machine learning will keep people connected and working together in augmented operations. Now, the real value from augmented operations will be dependent on actionable insights from data generated in buildings. Now, as much as we are all social creatures, we want to minimize human contact when we are at public spaces at this time. So contactless services in FM would mean the use of tools that support various services in a contactless basis or mode, such as cleaning, monitoring, maintenance, parking payment, and so on. Now, we all have heard a bit about also the future of work, in one way or another. So, and I would like to reiterate that workplace change management will be an important service. In many ways, FM companies can offer specific solutions in workplace design and also innovate services that are suitable for co-working and flexible workspace. Now, for the longest time, we have known that energy management is an important proposition. And I'm going to say that it will continue to stay and remain important. Now, energy management will continue to require talent or manpower and also technologies for success in the FM business. Now, the key transformation lies definitely on the business models for energy management services. Now, so besides outcome-based and performance contracts, energy as a service model is also another option. Now, data analytics has been advocated for years in the FM industry, and it will continue to be the backbone for FM transformation. And we all know that many FM companies are continuously trying to strengthen FM hard services. Now, this segment or what we call hard FM or FM hard services will grow faster than soft services. And the success will be influenced by technical ability and also self-delivery models. So within hard services itself, the focus will continue to be on the use and development of IoT applications, cloud services, connectivity, predictive diagnostics, and also remote maintenance. And specifically, the focus on HVAC or HVAC efficiency will be more important, especially for indoor air safety purposes. And definitely last but not least, FM companies should really start looking into service change or service integration. The first step is really to invest in self-delivery and iFAME, because this is a capability that customers are looking for in the long run. Now, the cost of acquiring self-delivery capability can be high, and we all know that. But the margins will definitely grow if it's done correctly over a certain period of time. So one possible way to enhance self-delivery model is to invest on technologies, robotics, or some innovation that drives remote maintenance. So finally, the conclusion is that change is definitely necessary for in the FM industry. So apart from our presentation here, you will understand the importance of digital applications and new business models from the rest of the speakers later on in this webinar. And as a conclusion, to be successful FM player of the future, services that focus on total cost of ownership and building efficiency will definitely be necessary. And when we improve building efficiency, it is not just about energy management or cost management, but we look at ways to improve operational health and safety. The entire remodeling of facility management will need new technologies and business model innovations. So please remember that technology and new business models come hand in hand. So in doing so, we will expect more partnerships, collaborations, and co-creation, and also M&As to continue among FM players within the entire industry ecosystem and also technology companies. So I would like to thank you for your time and patience with me. Feel free to drop in questions and please continue to stay on. I'm very sure you'll get more insights from the remaining speakers ahead. So thank you so much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much, Melvin. Wonderful, message here. I mean, of course, I think although we can actually see a drop of 5.2% in the global FM market, certainly we can actually see a trend of actually growing needs of technology that can actually helps to improve that marketplace. And certainly, I just want to, invite participants from the 18 nations. I think one of the nations would be actually Vietnam, and I think Melvin has actually mentioned here the expected best performing region in FM growth is actually in Vietnam. So I know some of you guys who's actually sign in to listen to this, and I hope that you all can actually sort of get some questions through for Melvin later. Without further ado, I'll just like to actually move on to my next speaker, Tony Khoo. He's the current CEO of EM Services Private Limited and concurrently the president of SIFMA. And Tony has over 30 years wealth of experience in property industry covering design, project management, development management, investment and feasibility studies, property, facility and township management, and marketing and leasing. He is currently the CEO of EM Services Private Limited, and which is the market leader in township management in Singapore, managing over 700,000 housing development board residential units. EM also provides a project management operations, command center, engineering services, real estate management, and accommodation services. So he's also the co-chair of a FM implementation committee to drive transformation in the industry under the Real Estate ITM Industry Transformation Map. He has held leadership positions in One Marina Property Services Private Limited, Maple Tree Investments Private Limited, UGL Primas Limited. Tony will be sharing with us the manpower challenges of the FM sector. Tony, over to you, please.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. May I share my screen now?
Sure.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks, Melvin, for the broad overview of the current industry. and across the region, and also highlight so many opportunities amid this COVID-19 crisis. Okay, so while Melvin earlier talked a lot about opportunities, my topic today is about challenges, manpower challenges of the FM sector. And I like to see this as not a negative one, but these are the root for the opportunities that Melvin mentioned earlier. Okay, about more than 2 years ago, Singapore, initiated a review of its core industry. In fact, 23 of the industry, which are very important to Singapore in terms of employment and in terms of contribution to the GDP. And from there, they developed what we call ITM, Industry Transformation Map. And FM has been identified as one of the key industry for that transformation. So at that period, many dialogues has taken place. Many stakeholders have come about and talk about the issues facing FM. So at the end of this dialogue, we've identified or summarized, so-called our issues or our problems into 8 Ps. And these are the 8 Ps. The first one, FM, although is one of the oldest profession in the world, but it's still today, until today, lack of professional recognition. And then of course, in Singapore, we are facing an aging people in the particular in our workforce. And the other issues facing us is our industry is highly competitive in terms of pricing. And that competitive pricing leads to low pay or salary for the people. The other area that we have identified is FM has always been a reactive industry because we don't have influence at the planning and design stage, at the upstream value chain. The other problem or issues is that our procurement practices are very short term, maybe 2 to 3 years, and it is highly headcount based. Because it is headcount based, not so much adoption of technology, and because it is human based, headcount based, every processes become unique and that leads to lack of standard processes. So if you look at these 8 Ps, in fact, all of them either related directly to manpower or is as a result of manpower. So these are all the challenges that we are facing today. But because of that, 2 years ago, led by BCA, this implementation committee, in short, we call it FMIC, was formed. It is made up of various agencies, big companies, small companies, buyers, sellers, and of course, associations like ourselves, as SIFMA. So we come together, study the problem, and then identify 4 areas that we think can help address those issues. The first area is design for maintainability, or in short, DFM. This is to ensure maintainability considerations are taken into account in upstream design phase. That will help us solve our planning issues. And then the second area is smart FM. That is to encourage adoption of smart FM to improve productivity and service quality. And that will address our issues of productivity and so-called processes. The third area is on manpower and industry development, in short MID. This is to ensure FM workforce is adequately trained and firms are competent in service delivery. This will help address our professionalism, aging population, aging workforce, and also the pay issue. And then finally, in the fourth area, we talk about procurement, and this is to strengthen FM procurement, including adoption of outcome-based contracting, and that will help us address the last 2 Ps, which is procurement and pricing. So in the last 2 years, a lot of effort has been put into it, and a lot of work has been done. And these are some of the deliverables, for design for maintainability, this DFM guides has been launched since last year. And then at the same time, BCA has piloted the maintainable design appraisal system, or in short, MIDAS, and that will be further enhanced by combining MIDAS and GreenMark together, and that will be launched, pretty soon in this quarter. For Smart FM, the industry have developed a consortium operation technology roadmap, and at the same time come out with a guide to how to so-called proceed to do Smart FM that was launched last year. And recently in March, productivity solution grants were given out to the industry for players, for companies who wants to adopt technology and to help them with some funding. And recently in IBEW so-called month of webinar, the Smart FM challenge is launched. That is where the developers and FM companies or technology provider identify a challenge and come and see whether they are able to come up with a COT. COT stands for City of Tomorrow. R&D grant call will also be made. Then in the third area of manpower and industry development, this is one of the most critical area of work for the FMIC. Is recently we have completed our FM skill framework, and with that, we are going to launch a FM companies accreditation scheme, and this will be done or launched pretty soon by end of the year. So that will help set you know, uh, raise the standard of our professionalism in FM. And then finally, in the fourth area, in procurement, at the beginning of the year, BCA launched the FMC registration, and very soon they will provide a guide on how to do FM procurement with focus on outcome-based procurement. So all this guide has already been developed and are available for public. If you are not aware, the place to go to is you just have to go to the BCA website, or you can come to our SIFMA website and you can able to download some of these documents. They are free for all. Please, have a look at them so that it can help you to embark on your journey of transformation. So while we are busy doing all this, unfortunately, February, COVID-19 come and attack us. So what does that actually happen? How COVID-19 has impacted FM for the new normal. Okay, I think like what Melvin has mentioned earlier, we expect reduced business demand in the next few years because building load is going to be reduced, and hence FM services will probably be reduced accordingly. And the pace of change will increase significantly because uh, the change comes suddenly, and we just have to react to it, and not just react in a normal way, but a lot faster way. Otherwise, we will be wiped out. The businesses have to be more resilient in terms of their infrastructure, resilience in terms of their supply chain, also resilient in terms of their resources. We realize that in the future we have to be less reliant on foreign workers, and that I think not just apply in Singapore, but I think also in a lot of other countries, our neighboring countries. And all these workers, foreign workers or local workers, we know they have to work in a very safe working environment, as at the same time safe accommodation and transport. So how should FM respond to this COVID in the so-called new normal? And like what Melvin has highlighted earlier, digital skill is now essential, is no longer optional, and there will be more collaboration with other stakeholders. We realize, during this COVID-19 crisis, not one company can solve all the problem. In fact, we have to come together as a team, collaborate, and then can come up with innovative solutions. So collaboration becomes the key, as what Melvin has highlighted as well. And not depending on our foreign workforce, we have to build a Singapore core workforce, and there's a need for us to drive productivity through technologies. Again, all those opportunities that Melvin has highlighted, there is a technology component with it. So that is very, very real today. Productivity can only improve or significantly can improve through the use of technology, and not just technology, but the new innovative ways of working. The old ways, I think you just have to, have to relook, review. And one of the innovative ways of working is learning. Lifelong learning become part of us. And if we want to be resilient, we have to continue to learn because technology keep changing, environment keep changing. We need new skills to so-called address and overcome those hurdles in life, it works, And finally, like what Melvin has highlighted as well, to be resilient, our business continuity measures and capabilities must be strengthened and it must be put in place. So amid all these so-called crises, issues, what can SIFMA do? I think to be better prepared in the future as an association, we will continue to engage our members, industry professionals, authorities, and FM companies to share knowledge and offer advice, best practices, and management strategies. I think if we stay together, collaborate together, we will be stronger together. Yep, that's my message for today. Thank you very much. Feel free to put in your question at the end of this panel discussion. And with this, I pass it back to Michael. Michael?
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. It's really good, right, to actually see that, all the 8 Ps that you have actually, talk about and how we can actually address each and every of the 8 Ps. And there are a number of questions are coming in, and I suppose I want to encourage more participants to actually ask questions. At the end of the panel, we will answer them each and every of the questions. Thank you, Tony. To overcome manpower challenges in this pandemic, SIFMA must work hard hand in hand and together with the stakeholders. I can actually see there's a lot of, Melvin's talk about collaboration. Tony talks about collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration that we actually have to actually come together, right? Now, partnership, collaboration, the co-creation it's the key thing that we will have to work together to face the COVID-19. Without further ado, allow me to introduce Eugene. Mr. Eugene Seah is a Senior Director, Group CEO's Office from Sabana Jurong Group. He spearheads and oversees a group special projects, and particularly group initiative on sustainability, BIM, and productivity. He's also the director on the boards of 360 Cost Management and 360 Contract Advisory, and also appointed as the Managing Director of the Sabana Technologies, pushing Sabana Jurong Smart City agenda. Eugene works on enhancing productivity in design and construction and research on computational BIM, modeling, VR and MR, and other productivity and enhancement topics for Sabana Jurong Group. His efforts has won him several accolades for Jurong, Sabana Jurong, including RITS, Construction Professional of the Year 2019. He's also a lecturer at the Department of Building, School of Design and Environment, National University of Singapore. Eugene will be sharing with us on the digital twins, being the next innovation in built environment. With this, I would like to hand over the floor to Eugene, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you, everyone. I'm assuming you can see my slide. Yep. Okay. Yes. Thank you for the introduction, Michael, and thank you for also the organizers for inviting me. I would like to share with you on this thing called platform play, and it's something that I'm very passionate with, and I see that this is going to be the future. It's not as in we are keep dabbling in it now, but it's really going to change the way we are going to be looking in facilities management and asset management. So we are where I'm coming from is looking at something like a common data environment. And if I can give the analogy of a body, it is like you is providing two things. One is the analytics, the decision making stuff, which is the brain. The background, the backbone, which is the spine, where all the things are actually connected to this platform. And the major organs would be the things like the the devices, the point solutions, where you'll be able to tap on lights, the energy from lights, be able to monitor water, able to monitor lifts, and so on and so forth. Um, I, I was stuck yesterday. It so happens I was stuck in the lift in my condominium, and it's probably perhaps a small condominium. It was not really connected to anything, right? And so it's a good thing that I could actually give a call to the guardhouse to help me inform the MA. Now, imagine this is all actually connected to a platform. You have a supercomputer that be able to either predict the fault, or if I'm really at stuck inside, even without me calling, the brain will let the lift company know that I'm actually stuck. So this is not a dream. We are actually using it for monitoring assets like lift and escalators, energy, water, using smart SCADA, plugging in cameras into the system so that we are able to do video analytics and much, much more. And I feel that this is really going to be a game changer in the way that we are looking at how we are providing the platform play in FM. So, just some of the examples that I would like to push forward is like those is like e-inspection that we have with our clients. In this case, would be with Changi. That if you go to Changi, you go to the toilet and you press all those smiley faces, right? And if you're happy with it, you press big smile. But it's not, you press something and say, hey, I'm not happy, and then the next thing they ask you why. Is it smell? Is it this? And then you press that the next thing, immediately within 8 minutes there will be actually a response. So it actually helps to upkeep the place. If there are issues, you can take a photograph immediately. It's sent to a tracker, so that it's actually being addressed. The next generation, we're actually looking at, if you take a picture, you'll be able to recognize what's actually happening in the picture before you can fill it in. The next step will be actually done by AI. So talking about AI, because you have a spine, you have a brain, you'll be able to tell this brain, if you're literally looking at if you have shimmering in the lifts and in the escalators, there's a R square, a regression of 0.98 or 0.99% that this is actually going to happen in 2 weeks time. So we are now linking in information that we are having from the old sensor boxes to now the new ones, and experimenting in adding new technology and new sensors to it as well. So like anomalies, deceleration, and fitting this into a dashboard so that lift companies, managing agents will be able to use it in intelligent and a predictive way. So we are actually walking the talk. This is just a map whereby we are looking at where do the SJNs stay in Singapore. We are currently in connection one, this red dot below in the south. We're going to move to this black dot in the west, and it's really very west. And these are the people that are staying all over Singapore. What we are doing is we are using this map questionnaire. It's a map and a questionnaire put together. You fill in the necessary things. You draw how you get to work. You cycle to the station or and take MRT. And it then comes up with a suggestion on how should plan our transport routes. How should we pick the SJNs up in all over Singapore. And we have data like perhaps 30-40% want us to work from home, and so we can plan for more optimized use of our campus in the future. This is how we should be using technology to assist us in our work, in our planning, and I call this data-driven design. Okay, so data science, I think, is really also going to be the next step. So platform play, and then data and data science is going to be the next step. And we have invested into 4 data scientists, and it probably will be growing to doubling that in the next 1 year, because I'm a big fan of data. I call it data-driven designs, data as a service, and it really helps to help us in terms of designing something that's better to improve the quality of life, so the people in the company, or even in the precinct or the city that we design, or the city that we are looking after. So this is something it's really just off the box, off the shelf, and um, I would like to share with you on how we are actually using platform and how we are using data to fight the COVID. So these are the gateways that we have refurbished from all our stances around Singapore, and we are refurbishing it to be able to pick up this tokens. And so we are partnering with Decrypt, and this is a Bluetooth low energy equipment, and we are be able to know first and foremost contact tracing, and second is if you have actually gone through the site or gone to a certain section, you are actually in this area. So if something happens, you don't need to close down the entire dormitory, don't need to close down the entire site, and you are able to really pinpoint with precision who we should be countering and why. So there's no, we cannot afford that's what the keynote speaker said, Melvin, we can't really afford a second close of the economy. So this is really something very precision. So we're using data to fight the virus now, right? And we are putting it in the dorms as well, and people going through. So if we don't need to shut down the whole dorm. We don't even need to shut down the block of the dorm. We just need to shut down maybe a floor. And I'm refining that we're looking at some ways. We're working with Decrypt, and they're a great company. They have this agile. I call it the agile thinking design methodology, and we are even looking at a reverse thinking to see how we can put it in every dorm. So this is what I mean by using digital and data to really redefine, retool the way we work. And in this case, using it how to fight the virus. And because of that, and I have a bit of background in social network analysis, and I'll be able to tell, for example, these are the guys, the left-hand side is who have been affected. The center one is the timeline using social network analysis to know who has been there. You can see my name in there because I also volunteered myself, found out that I'm actually one of those social butterflies. I do meet a lot of people, so I have to be very careful. But you know what? This is something that uh, um, sorry, so, and the right one is on the contact tree. But this is really using data to help us, and we'll be able to use this in terms of planning, design. Once I'll be able to know the social behavior, I'll be able to have social architecture, planning for the designing of better cities, better precincts, so that we can manage them easier. So this is the message I would like to give. That will seed some stuff into thought. I know some of it is thought provoking, but very happy to take questions later. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Eugene. Delighted to actually have Eugene from SJ to speak to us on all the technologies that he shared with us on the case on how SJ had harnessed the data that was actually really analyzed further to enable process optimization. That's really good. I can actually see quite a number of questions. Maybe later, Eugene, if you can sort of able to actually answer some of the questions here together with the panel, that'd be really great. So without further ado, I'm just wanted to add on that there's 2 more speakers, and I'm going to introduce the next speaker. Then we have David the last. The next speaker is our speaker, Mr. Chong, SC Chong. Yeah, so Chong Sia Chong. So I would like to move on that Mr. S.C. Chong is a Vice President of Singapore Industrial Automation Association. Mr. Chong championed the robotics group since 2016 and co-chaired the Singapore International Robo Expo conference and exhibition from 2016 to 2018. The SIRE, or in short, attracted country pavilions from Korea, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom to showcase their robotic technologies in Singapore. SC had crafted the robotic ecosystems for SIAA based on 4 key pillars: knowledge, engagement, regional reach, and leadership, with a business focus on the key drivers. He also is one of the key drivers for the SIAA 3 major initiatives: common model, air hub, and training on demand. These initiatives have started to gain attraction amongst members and agency. So Mr. Cheong here will share with us on robotics for facilities management. SE, over to you, please.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks a lot for the kind introduction. So first, I'd like to thank SAMS as well as SIFMA, I think, for this kind so-called invitation to share in this webinar about SIAA drive for the robotics, the technology and the solution from our members.
Sorry, just to stop you. Before you actually carry on, can you put your slides in the full screen?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. So I think the fact that we are able to come to this webinar, it shows already a very clear signal that the collaboration has already started. I think we would like to take this as a good starting point to collaborate further in terms of how we tap on the technology that will benefit all the stakeholders. So my presentation will primarily looking at into the landscape of robotic. Robotic typically is actually best used in the 3D, right? What we call the DAO, the dirty and the dangerous. So in FM, especially in the cleaning portion, DAO and dirty is actually pretty common, right? So this actually suits the FM application in a great way. However, we would also like to ask ourselves, why is it not readily available as yet? So I come to that challenges and all this later. At the same time, I'd also like to share some of the things that we are already doing in SIA as well. So a quick landscape about these robotic solutions. I go pretty detailed to explain some of the possible costs about the adoption, as well as purchasing. I think some of these are our members as well as solution readily available right now. Gaussian robotics, for example, they are in the cleaning. So this is the cost 1.5K, 1,500 per month if you are leasing. If you are purchasing, is 38,000. Of course, then the other one is a SUTD spin-off, Lion's Board, which is at this point of time, they have several models, and the leasing is about 2,000 plus. And if you're buying per unit, it's 75,000. So they do cleaning as well as very quickly respond to the COVID situation. They've come out with a disinfection robot as well. So the other key player is also the MI robotics. They have a telepresent robot, entertainment robot, concierge robot, security robot. So you can see it from the summary over there. It ranges from 2,009 to 4,005 per unit for leasing, purchasing. So this itself, you can already see the big change in the landscape in Singapore for robotic offering. In the past, it's always in the selling model as a business model. But now everybody is going for the leasing as well, right? We have also another local, very strong technology company, 6AGT. So they are focusing on the surveillance robot, multi-terrain, also as well as indoor robot. Their current model is primarily in purchase way. We have also Western Robotic, which is also a company that's able to integrate good solution for robotics. They are into mass detection, social distancing. Within a very short period of time, they have responded. The reason why they are able to do that is because they are able to do in the modular form. They're able to assemble a few modules, then respond to the market needs. As you can see, the listing model is about 3,000 per month, and purchase is 45,000. Disinfection robot is also available from them. And then, of course, we have the big MNC like Omron, Japanese company that is offering robotic mobile units, mobile platform that is able to put something on top to for the various function. So we have also a new tech, also bringing in robot that is primarily focusing on hospitality, healthcare, education, purchased at 5K per unit, and many more in the so-called drone that is used for facade inspection and drone. Of course, I did not mention about the price here. So why is such a big differences for all these? I think the primary issue is really the performance of each of the robot is quite different. The environment that they're operating is different. The terrain that they have to cover is different. So how long they are working in the terrain, the power in terms of what are the requirement in terms of IP requirement, meaning how well they're protected against the external environment, temperature, rain, water, and all this will be different. Of course, the other key point is also quantity that they are prepared to offer to the customer. Is it 5 unit or versus 300 unit or 1,000 unit? The other key point, I think, is also the product architecture. Whether they are making this in a modular form. Modular form meaning the same module will be able to apply in the several model. Typical, for example, R&D cost required for a particular model, it can cost from 800,000 to 1.2 million if you're only making one model. But if you are making the whole product line, there is a clear product architecture with modular form, you can actually optimize the R&D by having, for example, 5 million for 13 model, right? So the other key difference is also how much commonality standard item versus customized item. If the application is used in such a way that the requirement, the specification is within a very general range, then of course standard item which is off the shelves is available, and this of course will have the very affordable cost. And ultimately, I think it depends also on the term and condition, the support and maintenance required by the robots, right? So I would like to also share this market feedback from implementation of all these robotic solutions currently. One is really the market size. I think what I'm sharing today is primarily the data from Singapore, not yet too much in the region. Of course, for the region, that is actually the big opportunity. So if you're talking about Singapore alone, the market size is pretty limited, right? Also the high cost of the hardware, availability of the maintenance of expert in-house, like FM, I think like what Tony have shared earlier, many of the FM expertise in-house is in the incline, not so much in the technical aspect. So that I think bring the good opportunity like what he highlighted in the adoption of the technology and also possible training opportunity for people that is offering robotic solutions, right? The other key point is also optimize process before automation. That mindset, theoretically, it is good to optimize the process before you implement automation solution like robotic solution. However, it's always a chicken and egg issue. We can't be making a new facility like what Tony have shared. You start from the beginning to design in is great. You will get the full benefit, but I don't think many of the players in the market can afford to wait for 3 to 5 years after the construction to see the benefit. So there's really need to redesign the environment and having a integration based on the current infrastructure. And then of course, we have a lot of current challenge like the integration of the robotic solution to simply just the lift would be a quite an expensive solution. For the lift, actually, because of the safety requirement and all this, it is also not easy for them to open their data and their control system to the rest of the system integrator. So these are some of the current challenges during the implementation that we are seeing. So early adopters are mainly agency that's in Singapore market. So different needs may not be able to port over the commercial consideration easily. I think from agency point of view, there's pretty specific in terms of the productivity driven and policy driven. So this is still require some connection, matching of all these call for grant for the solution to be able to have a solution that beside addressing the agency need is able to port over for commercial application later. So you can reuse some of the IP and the technology. And also the lack of vision of leadership adoption roadmap. I think this is very crucial, because I think the moment you have a certain leadership and roadmap for the technology and product, you will be able to have everybody align, work together. Even you need to collaborate, you will have require strong leadership as well as a roadmap for everybody to work together. So yeah, why do we need to be the first one to come into this adoption of robotic technology, especially in the FM area? So I think there are 4 points that I want to put forward as a point for you to consider. First is change before you are forced to change, right? So that you are you have more, basically you have more leverage of what are the options that you have. Like what also Tony has shared, aging, availability of foreign workers is reducing. Manpower cost is definitely going up. Also at the same time, then you really have no choice, but you must be able to attract the local workforce. So this is one of the possible way that using robotic, who is taking care of the dull and dirty work, will be able to attract more local workforce to make the job interesting for them. Right? It takes time to change the mindset of relevant stakeholder and finding the sweet spot for automation. One of the very successful robotic adoption company that we've seen in Europe actually is in Holland. It's called Smart Robotic. What this guy did is actually every time before they implement the robotic solution, they will spend 2 days, bring the robot, go down with the stakeholder, the workers especially, who are supposed to adopt the robotic solution, let them play with the robot, let them realize what is the performance of the robot, in what way it can integrate into the work and make it easier for them. So this is extremely important. I think we also hear story about not robotic, even just a cleaning machine where the bosses invested in the machine. If the workers do not have the right mindset, it is very difficult to keep the machine in good condition. And after several months, then the maintenance cost has to go up a lot. That again is a very challenging situation. So ultimately, for technology adoption, the human part of it is still a very key factor, right? Forward-looking culture is critical for next phase of company survival. It is like what we have also mentioned, COVID hit us in a very short time. Nobody can expect it will last for 6 months to 8 months now. So having the right culture of forward-looking in all the company is extremely important as a survivor. Right? Last point, leadership, collaboration, technology advancement. I think many of the speakers have shared. And then the cost now of the key component are coming very quickly, just like computer and smartphone. The moment you have quantity, the moment you have more people that is coming into this area of robotics, then the cost can drive down very quickly, right? I'm sharing this one is not for you to read in detail, but basically what we wanted to explain to you is the association actually together with, we are a so-called supplier association. There are many demand association like SIFMA and SAM and all these. So basically we are working together with a lot of all these associations and together with agencies and Senate Council to establish what are the standards to adopt so that it's easier for business people to quickly pick up the standard and then really bring to the market so that you cut short the learning curve, you cut short the mistake you make. And of course, all these mistakes can be quite costly, especially when you're talking about robotics, right? All this safety, the deployment, as well as procurement procedure. So all these are uncertainty, unknown, which trade association and agency work together will be able to bring a lot of benefit to all this. So the last few slides is just a very quick explanation of what SIA is doing besides robotics. So we basically look into AIR. A is automation, I is IoT staff, and then R is for robotics. So we focus on knowledge, network, leadership, and marketplace. Some of the marketplace now we are also addressing to, for example, the COVID pandemic. So we are actually increasing the interaction among members through the Zoom and all these remote contact, proactively hunt as a pack, collaborate as among the members, so that we came out with a platform that is having a different interest focus group. I think these are the 6 areas, you can read it yourself. building automation, cold chain, intelligent surveillance, intelligent logistic, low touch economy, smart factory. And these are the so-called some of the key so-called solution people that is in our membership. And this is the A Hub, where A stands for automation, IoT, robotic, focusing in the knowledge as well as solution, which is the skill to be able to address the problem that, especially in the technical side, for many of the businesses. I think the key point is to have some solution that is driven by people that is very business focused, and that's where the association is aspired to achieve, right? So this is a very quick summary of what I wanted to share with the webinar today. Yeah, now I'll hand back to Michael. Thank you.
Thanks so much, SC. I can actually see that robotics are really coming, in our industries and to help us to probably maybe augment in some of the operations that we do in FM. Thank you, SC. Let me actually introduce our final speaker, David McInnes. Dave leads the customer success team at Kaya, where he is responsible for delivering Kaya's brand experience across their regional air conditioning service portfolio. With a background in consumer marketing and over 10 years of experience in the building industry, Dave specializes in customer insights that drive Kaya's product development roadmap and customer engagement platform. As an advocate of the circular economy and product as a service business model, Dave regularly shares experiences with large MNCs and startups who are looking to transition to this disruptive business model. Dave will be sharing with us the topic on anything as a service. With this, I would like to hand over to the floor to Dave.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. Can I just make sure that you can see my slides on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. And thanks for the invitation to be with you today. In just 5 or 10 minutes, I wanted to achieve one thing, which is I want to try and convince the entire audience that everything should be sold as a service. Absolutely everything. And also that anything can be sold as a service. And I want to do that by sharing 3 very short stories. The first 2, I hope, will convince you that everything should be sold as a service. And then the last one, that anything can be. And the first story, I want to talk about customer centricity and why selling things as a service is better for your business and better for your customers. And to do that, we need to realize that customers are now living in a world where they don't want products and they want services. People generally now don't like buying and investing in equipment and then using that equipment for whatever service or benefit they want. They want to just buy the service and the benefit. And to make that example, I wanted to use, I think, one of the most customer-centric brands on the planet, which is Apple. So my examples are not going to be from the built environment. And I think we should learn from other industries of how we can apply this business model and why we should. So in 2003, we were all buying our music on CDs, and Apple iTunes came out and said, you can now buy online from my online music store and you can pay per track. You don't need to buy CDs anymore. And they said this would revolutionize the music industry. And it did. And in 2011, after just 8 short years, digital downloads overtook physical sales. So this is data from the US, which has the best data set. And so everyone said, well, this means that they're more customer centric. Customers want to buy things online and pay per use as opposed to buying CDs. But then if you fast forward a little bit more, in 2017, just a few years ago, physical sales overtook digital downloads, which meant kids were buying more CDs and vinyl than they were paying companies like iTunes to download and pay per track. And so the question is, what happened? How can you go from nothing to being the market leader to being nothing again? And the answer is, not everything is on this slide. And the answer is as a service. So in 2008, Spotify came along and some other companies came along and said, we don't think people want to own CDs. We think they want to listen to music. On the left, you can see Spotify's revenue from 2009 to 2016, exponential growth. And this is the revenue curve of most as-a-service businesses. In the middle, you can see the American music market grew from 4.4 billion in 2014 to 7 billion in 2017. But you can see it's because of that green line. It's because of streaming is increasing. And actually the permanent downloads, so the pay-per-track downloads, were decreasing from 2015 onwards. And then the data on the right shows you that in 2017, you can see physical sales made up 17% of the market and digital downloads only made up 15% of the market. So you can see that actually that all of the customers have gone to streaming and as a service. And the reason I like this example is because a lot of you out there are engineers or scientists, or you like a controlled study and a controlled environment. And you can see now that Apple Music was launched in 2015 and iTunes pay-per-track, they announced in 2019, they're actually discontinuing that service. So on this slide, you have an extremely controlled experiment. You have on the left iTunes, which is a product, and on the right, you have Apple Music, which is a service. It is the exact same music, sold in the exact same way, sold to the exact same customers from the exact same company with the exact same brand and the exact same marketing spend. But on the left, you have a product, and on the right, you have a service. The one on the left is going out of business. The one on the right is growing exponentially. It is a perfect example of how customers are choosing with their wallets that they want to buy services, not products. And it's not just music. It's in every single industry you can think of. So all of these brands, if you think of disruptive brands or you think of all the brands that are growing now, these are all as a service companies. They all use the exact same business idea. Their customers don't have to own anything. Their customers just get access to content or access to services. So it is extremely customer centric. So that's the, if for nothing else, you should move to this business model. But secondly, I want to move to what that means in terms of disruption of industries. So if something is more customer centric, it usually leads to scale. These companies get bigger. And when you get scale, you get disruption. And for that, I want to use, my second story is around Grab, the ride hailing service. And this is real data that I got and I put together from Singapore. So what I'm going to share with you is an example of me driving a car versus me taking a Grab. Now on the left-hand side, there's a trip I took from Matrix to Holland Village. And this is a real trip. And I worked out the cost of that would cost me about 16 bucks. And that's because the car would cost me $10. And I got that number by taking the total price of a car in Singapore over its life cycle, which is extremely high, and dividing it by the number of trips. So cost per trip is about $10. Petrol was $2, parking was $4. So my entire experience would cost me $16. I put that same trip into Grab and it only cost me $10. And you can try and figure out where that money goes to, but essentially it goes to four of these key areas. One is the car, you've got to pay for the car still. Now that's the same car as mine. The only difference is utilization. Because that car is being used all of the time, the cost per trip goes down. So now the car is only $2 instead of 10 because it can make 5 times as many trips over its lifetime. Petrol is still $2, you've got to pay the driver, let's say 50%, and let's say Grab makes $1. So you can see there that it's better for me as a customer. I don't have to worry about owning a car. I don't have to worry about maintaining a car. I can click a button and I can go to where I want to go. So it's very customer centric. But now Grab and companies like Uber and Lyft and all these companies globally, they are responsible for the single largest fleet of vehicles in human history. There has never been scale like this before. And because of that scale, they can invest in R&D and technology and software to disrupt an industry. And that's why you see Grab as a software company and a digital data company, not as a transport company. And what that means is, this was an article that I got actually from last year. They've said that they're going to come out with autonomous taxis before 2022, and that's in Singapore. So that's just 2 years from now. So in 2 years from now, they're saying they're going to have an autonomous fleet of vehicles going around Singapore, taking us where we want to go. So what does that mean in terms of disruption? Well, now I take that exact same trip, but let's look at the cost of offering that service now. The car is now, again, cheaper because the utilization is higher. So instead of $2, it's only 50 cents. It's an electric vehicle, so electricity is cheaper than petrol. That's only 50 cents. The driver's gone completely. 50% of your cost has just gone in providing your service. And let's say Grab still wants to make $1. They can now offer me that trip for $2. So you can see that going from the left to the right of the slide, customer centricity brings you scale and consumer innovation, and then that leads to disruption. I can't imagine anyone owning a car when you can get anywhere you want to go in Singapore for just $2 at the click of a button. I can't see myself or anyone owning a car in that world. It's extremely disruptive. So that's why everything should be servitized. It's better for customers, number one, and it leads to disruption and massive innovation within markets. And look at every single market or industry you've seen, it does this in every single one. That's why it should be. In terms of how anything can be, I wanted to share what we're doing at CARE, which is air conditioning as a service. We looked at this and said, if people don't want to own CDs and they don't want to own cars, maybe they don't want to own air conditioning assets. And everyone said, well, these are pretty big assets within buildings. You can't servitize that. People won't outsource that. And so we tried it, and we've been doing it for about 8 years now. And what we did is we just took the exact same business model and we said, CARE will take care of all the CapEx and all the OpEx of operating an air conditioning system. All of the manpower, all of the risk, all of the service and maintenance, all the repairs, and the utilities. And that's key when we get into circularity and sustainability in this environment. And building owners can just buy as they use. It's pay per ton hour, pay as they use. So essentially they buy air now like they buy electricity. You get a bill that says you have this many kilowatt hours, this is your unit rate, so this is what you pay. Same with air conditioning now. And we're doing this throughout Southeast Asia. And like the Grab story, you have business model innovation. So because we are now responsible for all these assets and responsible for operating them, we're looking at how we can invest in technology and hardware in order to lower our costs, increase our service level, and give a better level of customer service for our customers. And that looks something like this. But then just like the Grab example, when you have scale, and now that we're looking after about 10 million square feet of space, you can now move and become a software company. So CARE used to be an air conditioning firm, which used software to run air conditioning assets. We've now become a software company, which just so happens to use that software to run air conditioning assets. So we have a regional fleet of buildings that are operating around Singapore, India, and Malaysia, which are collecting data from each other, talking to each other, and figuring out how to do that in the most sustainable way. And so, with that example, what I wanted to show you is, it's possible, no matter what it is within the facilities management environment or the built environment, it can be servitized, and you can stay true to those principles of servitization, which is customer centricity, disruption, and then because you have that disruption, sustainability and a circular economy think. And circular economy feeling. And this is just some write-ups of global papers which are looking at what are things that are going to change our built environment in what's going to make it more exponential, more social, more circular, more sustainable. And cooling as a service, air conditioning as a service comes on top all the time. So, for us, it's really about a business model and a change in mindset, and how we can then use that business model to unlock technologies and unlock different ways of working to benefit our customers, our partners, and the environment as well. So with that, I think I maybe saved a little bit of time. With that, I'd like to hand back and look forward to the questions.
Thank you, David. Yeah, thanks so much. Guys, I'll just actually want to thank Eugene, who's unable to actually stay on for the panel of questions. I think he has answered some of the questions that related to his. I suppose I'm opening up to a number of questions that have actually came in. I thought it'd be a good session for us to actually look into it, and maybe perhaps see which of the questions that some of the panels can answer. Very quickly, I've just actually run through. I know we have Terence. The first one is Terence. Terence asked that share how FM companies can survive in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. I thought it's quite a apt question that all of us. Melvin, would you want to actually take this on? Because I thought what you have actually shared in some of your slides were a model that we should actually look into.
Okay, sure. Well, basically, I can't answer on behalf of all FM companies out there,
Sure.
Because I think every company has their own dynamics, and they are quite exclusive in the way of the way how things operate. So, but in general, you know, as a matter of fact, right? Any company, not just FM companies, you know, when we're talking about survival, business survival in the current pandemic, right? What is truly required, especially even for FM companies, is really about collaboration and how they can actually develop future businesses with what they strategize or what they do today. I will give you several examples. Like there are some FM companies who actually stepped in to support the government in providing supplies and services, supplies as in PPEs, face masks, ventilators. Also, there are some I will not name them because not sure if they are present in this webinar. They provide ventilators to the government hospitals. So, well, of course, these are actually I would say mileage or service mileage for them to secure future businesses with government contracts in the future. And I would say this is a very good strategy for publicity. So yeah, I would say the collaboration part, that is why this word has been mentioned a few times throughout this webinar, because nobody or no businesses can work alone anymore in this age.
Hi, Michael. Maybe I can
Tony.
jump in because
Yes.
I'm an FM company. I mean, SIFMA also represent a lot of our members are all a lot of FM companies.
Sure.
And during the COVID-19 period, we conducted quite a few dialogues with FM companies, both buyers and sellers. What are their issues? How do they come out with solutions to face those problems that arise because of COVID-19? So like what Melvin say, different FM issues and depending on their the way they are structured and the resources. But there are two things that I thought are very important that will impact FM companies, whether they are survive or not. First of all, I think it depends on your resources, depending, especially in Singapore, where your resources come from. So in my slides, I talk about we are very dependent on foreign workers. So if your workforce is highly dependent on foreign workers, you will be impacted more severely. Okay, and hence, for company to be more resilient, that's why you have to move towards more Singapore core type of workforce. And the other area that impacted the company severely, if you are not on a technology platform like what so-called Eugene has mentioned, because technology platform enable companies or actually enable the workforce not to contact one another, because through technology they can communicate. Instruction can be sent out through technology, so you don't really have to go to office and pick up your instruction. Actually, through technology, through your handphone, you'll receive works order, and hence you reduce contact with physical. I mean, we are, we are habitual people. We still like to go back to office, have coffee. But with technology, you cut out all the coffee, you just go straight to work. So I think if companies, particularly FM companies, if they are very dependent on foreign worker and they have not embarked on adopting technology, I think these two companies, this type of company will suffer a bit more. So how to survive in this COVID-19? I think you need to be less dependent on foreign worker. That's for Singapore context, and of course you need to embark on this technology. Michael, you are on mute. Is it? Can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, I am actually on mute. One of the key things here is that is digitalization. So what you're actually saying that don't actually rely on manpower, but digitalization is the key way forward to this to help the industry. But I think the other question is that of course collaboration is actually very important. I think collaboration talks about merger, right? I think big companies and smaller companies, SME companies coming together and looking into ways how to come together to actually maybe perhaps assist the industry, that merger is actually very important, right? Because I think what we're actually saying here is that we do not want bigger boys just to actually sort of monopolize the industry. But what we're actually saying is that, SMEs can actually come together because of like what David has actually mentioned about service-tize, some of the services. I think care has been actually, moving from, air conditioning, a different business model, that now you've actually approaching a different kind of a customer service centric. Yeah, David, you want to add in on this? I know there's some of the questions that talks about collaboration and merger as well, and there are quite a number of maybe perhaps we can actually look into, on the service-tize industry that you are in.
Yeah, I think to elaborate a bit more on Tony's point, the digitalization piece is really important, and before that, it's really the data piece. You can't really have digital transformation until you have data transformation, and you figure out how to use it. And I think when you move to the service business model, you get much more data. And I think one thing that facilities management companies can do is look at all the data they're collecting across their assets. How do they bring that in centrally, and how do they unlock the power behind it to help productivity, as well as some of this contactless stuff that Tony's talking about. And that's not an easy journey. And I think it's really about getting data scientists, data managers into these companies, and not treating it sort of like a separate function. It's got to become a core function of how we run buildings.
Yeah, you're on mute again, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm actually going to go on to another question. Maybe perhaps SC can actually help us to answer, because we've actually talked a lot about robotics, and SIAA comes up with a lot of good, robotics out there. But I think one of the questions that they actually asked, what about the productivity out of this robotics? Is there productivity, a yield, a gain that perhaps the participant can share with the participant?
Sure. I think that's why I think I mentioned in one of the bullet points, also Tony has also mentioned, right? A lot of time we look at how do we best optimize the technology adoption, looking at starting from the beginning, where you integrate it in right from the beginning of the facility. That was, let's say, in the past, but I think more and more now we need to look at how do I best use of the current situation. The technology now readily available. I saw one of the message over there. Question is we have somebody remote control behind it. That maybe is true in the past. I think, but with the technology today, with the AI and with the also a better so-called the LiDAR system and all the rest of the integration of system, actually a lot of things really can truly autonomous now. You can see not only in Singapore, I think the worldwide example, if you can have autonomous vehicles, all this can be done. So the question back to how do you look at productivity, it is really highly dependent on the understanding of the limitation of the technology, how best to find the sweet spot. You can't be doing automation, you can't be doing robotic across the board, but exactly the skill set of the people that you have, exactly the cost structure that you have. So multiple factors you have to integrate and say that at this point of time, where is my sweet spot to do the automation, the sweet spot to do the robotic, and at the same time, do it in such a way that you have a certain route map that you're able to scale it up later, and you need not to redo everything again. That's where I talk about modular, that's where I talk about roadmap, that's why I talk about the leadership, collaboration, and all this. All this is potentially a little bit like what David has mentioned as well. How do you increase the utilization level? How do you increase the reuse? That is boils back to, again, leadership and collaboration. So if you're able to work together to find a way to organize ourselves better, so ultimately we would be able to find a way to also measure the productivity improvement.
Thanks, SC. Very nice. I know one of the questions also was actually asking, how do we educate our clients? Because I think most of our clients are really profit driven, and right now because they are so focused on profit-driven P&L and are willing to invest even with an ROI less than 1 year. Now, I think, Tony, you've actually talked about FMIC, and one of the pillars of FMIC is actually basically, smart technology, smart FM that we want to actually, push out to the industry to really adopt. And you see, because clients are not, looking at this as one of the key things to drive forward technologies and smart FM. How would you able to actually sort of help the clients to understand that better, Tony?
Thank you, Michael. You always give me the toughest question, right? Yeah. So
Not
I
so
got
tough, lah.
yeah.
You're the
No, I
president
think
of the
I think
SIFMA.
I'm happy that I so-called sit through what Mark has presented, or David has presented.
Yeah.
I think in terms of solutions, in terms of investment in solutions, in terms of technology investment, I think that are available in the market. I mean, technology ROI, we can prove that it's got ROI, got return, but yet customers still don't want to pay for it, and I think that something that what David has mentioned. It's not the technology per se, but I think it's the business model. The so-called customer David will be very pleased to sell his story to. I'm sure after his 2 stories about Apple and Grab, I think the customer will half convinced that service is the way to go in the future. David, you like to add anything about the business model? I think you got a great business model.
I think it's we have to be really understand what customers are looking for, and when they look at running their businesses, they're investing money and looking at ROI in their business and driving their profits. But a lot of the stuff, for example, what we do in air conditioning, that falls under a cost center, not a profit center for them. It's just they have to do that to run their business. So essentially, the way they approach that is they look at budgets and how they can reduce that budget and that cost, so they can reduce that so they can focus on running their business. What the service business, the as a service business model does is it moves it off their balance sheet and onto ours, and now it becomes part of our business and part of our profit, actually. So therefore, we're more likely to invest in technology that can change these things. And it's not just air conditioning; it's every single industry. And actually, if you look at solar, when solar as a service came around, that's when the installation of solar panels globally skyrocketed. The technology's been there for quite a while, for about 10 or 15 years, and it hasn't changed that much. Price per watt in solar power hasn't changed that much in 15 years. But actually, the installation going up is when solar as a service came around. So I think, if you can take on these investments for your business and then offer the benefit of these technologies, then customers will bite, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. There's a technical fault here. Thanks, David and Tony. You've actually helped me out here. Just a very quick question, focusing to Melvin. Melvin, your takeaways, one of your takeaways, you did actually mention about the total cost ownership, right? Focus on FMC, this is actually way forward. FM would go beyond that total cost ownership and building efficiency. Could you sort of elaborate that more so that participants can really understand what it is, so that we can see a true convergence of digital technology and services?
Right. So ideally, this is a new, I wouldn't say it's a new idea, but I think it's more of a creative way in collaborating or partnering with FM customers. So apart from the usual and standard contracts of service provisions, whether it is security, cleaning, or M&E services, so the real onus is really on reducing the operating costs and improving the business efficiency for your FM customers. So with that, there are a lot of KPIs that needs to be fulfilled. Let's just say, for example, 0 downtime, 0 customer complaints, for example, or 0 dissatisfaction from washroom users. see, so you have all these wonderful technologies in place that are platforms for customer feedback, for occupant feedback, for example, on the cleanliness, on even energy usage and all that. But it is the end results that it is important. What are the end results that must be achieved in order to really certify a true or a successful dispense of FM services? And one of that KPI is really about cost efficiency and the cost of the operations, the entire operations of the business of the customer. And because this is relatively, I would say, new, or I would say, different from the standard SLAs that we see out there, I would suggest and also propose that FM companies can actually pilot this with some of their existing customers, rather than rolling it out, full swing into the marketplace. Because a lot of customers, the problem with all these wonderful business models, and technologies that that is out there, I would say one of the main challenge of why it is so slow in adoption, or it is not picking up as fast as we think it is that it should. It's probably one of the challenges really about the awareness of the customers, and also the readiness for change. Because when you talk about all these new business models, like anything as a service, for example, air conditioning as a service, it is, we have, we do have customers. FM customers are actually, some of them understand it, but they may not be ready to adopt it for whatever reasons. It can be cost, it can be awareness, or the understanding of it is just not there. So I think it is a concerted effort. So when we talk about total cost of ownership, well, the idea is there, and it is really helping or assisting or partnering with your customers to own, or to try to take ownership of cost reduction or cost optimization of the entire operations. So that is the entire idea here. I hope I'm making sense here. I think I've inserted a lot of ideas, but yeah. So generally, it is about cost optimization and
Thank you so much, Melvin. I know there's a lot more questions here. It's actually very difficult for me to actually sort of run through it. If we're going to actually run through all these questions and going to answer by y'all, we don't have a DJI Friday, So I think, can we actually sort of answer one of the question, right? Maybe perhaps this question, I hope it's actually you, Tony. One of the participants asked that, can FM companies work with service providers, cleaning, security stakeholders to achieve workplace safety and health outcomes in a COVID normal future? So, I mean, as a CEO of EM Services, you've done quite a number of public housing, right? Cleaning, security, and all that. And Tony, would you want to actually answer this? Because this is actually not going to be a very difficult question. It's actually going to be easy question for you, all right?
Yeah, I think this is a question of collaboration. I think, the industry are made up of many players, big and small, and to deliver the service, to deliver a service to our customer, it has to be a aggregated type of approach, So when it comes to the collaboration model, of course, in the past, every individual service provider will provide their respective service. But I think over time, especially what this COVID crisis has so-called highlighted, is that, there are a lot of gaps between these so-called services, and there are a lot of efficiencies, So the FMIC, the committee, identified that, this is an issue that has been highlighted more particularly by the COVID-19, because, the FM industry is although it is resilient, but it is not as resilient as it should be, and hence the next phase of our FMIC so-called focus is actually to look at, aggregation of services, and putting all these services together. Exactly how this is going to become together, I think it has to go back to, some innovative idea about business model. They talk about, earlier you all talk about merger and acquisition. I mean, that's only one of the model. Okay, you look at Grab, is a good example. All the drivers are not staff of Grab, they are independent contractors. So if the industry can come out with a so-called unified platform where everybody can jump on it, and each provide its so-called specialized area of service, I think the collaboration can still be done. It can be seamless to the customer, as what David pointed out, if you want to drink milk, you don't have to own a cow. Okay, so similarly, if you want a service, maintenance service to your building, you don't have to, talk to 11 people. Maybe you just put on a platform and then the service will just come in. I think that particular model will evolve over time. And that is how I see it's moving towards. But I think a lot of work still need to be done. It's about mindset. Even if technology platform is there, I think the ability or the desire to want to work together, I think that part still need to have a lot of work on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Can we just actually have one more questions to David? Oh, you have actually, okay. So, all right,
Yeah, sure.
I think, the idea of SaaS is interesting, right? So one of the questions that they've actually asked here, wondering whether smaller FMCs would be able to do it, right? Seems to require a lot of capital, for instance. Would customers that are SME enterprises be open to it?
Yeah, so that is actually one of the things when you move to the service business, you move from project financing to sort of owning a portfolio of buildings. So there is a lot of capital involved.
Right.
So you do need to make sure you can arrange your financing to do that. And that is a challenge and a hurdle of getting into the industry. But what I would say is start small, start with 1 or 2 small projects. And then once you show your track record, then increase in size and go from there. It's sort of a stepwise process. And that's what we did at CARE. And yeah, I think, having these really open contracts and having these discussions with your customers is really important. They need to know that you're going to be around for 20 years to provide this service.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a bit of a hurdle, but it can be overcome.
Thank you. I think we've run out of time, really. I think I want to quote what SC have actually said earlier in his slides. I thought that it really hits me quite a lot as a moderator here. I think Tony has actually mentioned it, Melvin has mentioned it, David also have mentioned, Eugene also have mentioned it. I love the connotation of what SC put it, proactively, hunt has a pack, right? In this day and age, instead of us competing with one another, we need to collaborate, with one another. So what is actually important here is that, the message that we all speak about is that, yes, COVID-19 pandemic is not going to be gone away, right? I mean, it's going to be, move on to about next year until we actually get an antigen for it. So I think it's going to be quite some time that we're going to actually able to actually rise above all these. But I think it's important that in the FM industry, collaboration, hunt as a pack, work together. This is actually the mindset that all of us in FM has to actually do, right? Don't you think? I think, Essie, do you want to have a last word of your hunt of a pack that probably maybe just, excite us before we leave for our DGF Friday,
Yeah, they have to do very short. I think basically hunt at the back is really to complement each other and have a full synergy, to share the knowledge, and especially now I think for Singapore market is not big enough. So the quantity and all this, we need to go beyond Singapore, and of course ASEAN in the region will be important. So the moment you go out of Singapore, if you don't hunt at the back, then the chances of success will reduce. So that's Yeah, that's the key thing.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I'll come to an end of this. And before I actually end, I just want to invite Tia Wai Hong from SAMS. SAMS is going to actually update us just 5 minutes. Give him an airtime of 5 minutes for him to actually talk about the program that is actually coming up in April next year.
Okay, so iFAME. So thank you for all our distinguished speakers for their earlier presentation on the FM industry. To gain access to business opportunities in the new normal, as well as to further learn the trends in the FM industry in Singapore and the region, we are now offering technology vendors, solutions and service providers a well-established platform in the form of a trade show and a supporting conference named iFAME 2021 and IFMC 2021, the 7th International Facility Management Expo and Conference respectively. Both events will be held at the SANS Expo and Convention Center, Singapore on 30th March to 1st April next year. iFAME 2021 is held in conjunction with ABS 2021, Architecture and Building Services 2021, a conglomerate of 6 synergistic trade shows listed here, organized specifically for the built environment industry. ABS 2021 is organized as an initiative under BCA's Build SG, a national movement that encapsulates the spirit of collaboration in the transformation of the built environment sector. Here, next, we would like to highlight the unique offerings from iFAME 2021 for exhibiting companies. First, a ready captive local and regional audience of some 2,500 FM professionals, consisting of facility managers, MCSTs, building owners, property developers, and so on from IFMC 2021 and 7 other FM-related concurrent conferences. Second, an additional 8,000 local and regional built environment professionals from the 6 core-located synergistic trade shows and their related conferences. Thirdly, assurance of attendance by key buyers groups from CPD, PDU, and SDU accredited conferences organized by or jointly with relevant trade associations and professional bodies like SIFMA, Union of Security Employees, Fire Safety Managers Association, and so on and so forth. Fourthly, at iFAME 2021, exhibitors are given opportunities to use the business matchmaking program for advance appointment with pre-registered visitors and conference delegates. And finally, iFAME 2021 exhibitors can also enjoy the hospitality package of buffet lunch and free flow of coffee, tea, and drinks over 3 days. This package is included in the participation fee. Next, on this slide, we would like to point out the various highlights during iFAME 2021. This consists of conferences which include the IFMC 2021, as well as the other 7 FM-related conferences. All conferences will be organized within the exhibition halls to enable maximum exhibitor-delegate interaction. Another highlight are the national pavilions from China, Korea, Portugal, Singapore, and Taiwan. These are funded pavilions by various government agencies as well as trade associations. For the Singapore Pavilion at iFAME 2021, it is being organized by the Specialist Trade Alliance of Singapore, STARS. The third highlight at iFAME 2021 are the Special Products Pavilion, which include a Smart FM Pavilion, a Robotics and Automation Pavilion, as well as the IDD Pavilion. IDD stands for Integrated Digital Delivery, and the pavilion is spearheaded by our Real Estate Developers Association of Singapore. And of course, the main exhibits for this IDD Pavilion would include BIM, Building Information Modeling System and Products. On the next slide here, we would like to highlight all the concurrent conferences being lined up. FM-related conferences are highlighted in blue. The main event, of course, is IFMC 2021. A one-day conference is on day 2. Other FM-related conferences would cover the areas of security, fire safety, workplace safety, landscape, as well as new technologies like BIM, robotics, automations, UAV, and so on. Next is the floor plan showing the layout of this whole event. On the plan, we have highlighted the various national pavilions like China, Korea, Portugal, Singapore, and Taiwan, as well as the 3 special products pavilions. Also on the floor plan, you can see the locations of the 3 conference rooms within the exhibition halls. 11 of the 13 conferences will be held here. Next slide, we would like to point out the various partners which are involved in this event, iFAME and IFMC. The strategic partners would include SIFMA for the IFMC 2021 and STARS for the official Singapore Pavilion. Our technology partner is the Singapore Industrial Automation Association. Other partners would include RADAS, RICS, USE, SSAS, and SILA. To participate in iFAME 2021, these are the various options. Companies can participate either as just exhibitor or in addition also as sponsor. 2 exhibiting and 5 sponsoring options are available. More details are available and may be requested from us. Finally, thank you for attending the iFAME 2021 presentation as well as the webinar. For more information, please call or WhatsApp me at 65 9689 0152 or my colleague Wilson at 65 9114 4776. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Wai Hong. So this concludes the webinar. I just want to actually take this opportunity to thank the team from SAMS and SIFMA for organizing this session, and also the speakers, Melvin, our speaker from Frost and Sullivan, he's a keynote speaker, Mr. Tony Koo, from president of SIFMA, Eugene, who unable to actually join us for the Q&A because of some urgent matters, from Sabana Jurong, Mr. Cheong from SIAA, David from Kerr Private Limited. So I just actually want to say a big thank you. Last but not least, I would like to thank all for staying back for more than 1 hour, with us, and I wish that, you have a good Friday. I shall hand over the floor to Chloe. No more already. Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's all I have now. Thank you very much. Have a good Friday. Yeah, bye all.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.